A wealthy millionaire walks into his luxurious dining room, only to discover his 7 months pregnant wife, dressed in her best gown, setting the table for their anniversary dinner. Her face glows with love and quiet hope, even though she's been enduring his coldness for months. But what happens next will leave you speechless. Because instead of celebrating, he hands her divorce papers, shattering her entire world. Let's go back to see how everything began. Emma Martinez was the kind of woman who carried love in her every gesture. Even in the 7th month of her pregnancy, with her back aching and her swollen feet begging for rest, she moved about the grand kitchen with quiet determination. A pot of her husband's favorite stew simmered gently on the stove. A chocolate cake cooled on the counter, filling the mansion with the sweet aroma of cocoa. Tonight wasn't just any night, it was their wedding anniversary. Emma wanted everything to be perfect. She hummed softly as she lit candles on the long oak dining table. A bouquet of white lilies, the same flowers Daniel had brought her on their very first date, stood proudly in a crystal vase. She smiled faintly, remembering the way he once looked at her, as if she was his entire world. But lately, that look had vanished. For months, Daniel had grown distant. His late nights at the office turned into unexplained absences. Phone calls ended abruptly when Emma entered the room. And more than once, she caught the faint scent of another woman's perfume lingering on his suits. Still, Emma refused to believe the worst. She told herself he was stressed, overworked, distracted by his growing empire. Tonight will remind him, she whispered to herself in the mirror. Tonight he'll remember what we have, before the baby comes. She smoothed the soft lavender gown stretched over her belly and touched the pearl earrings he once gifted her on a trip to Paris. Every detail of this night whispered of loyalty, of devotion, of love. Despite the loneliness, despite the whispers of gossip she'd overheard at society gatherings, Emma held her head high. She never complained. She never lashed out. Even now, when her heart longed for warmth, she chose to give. Because Emma believed, truly believed, that love could conquer silence. The clock ticked past 8 p.m. Still, Daniel hadn't arrived. Emma's hand drifted protectively to her belly as the baby kicked gently. She smiled faintly. "Daddy will be home soon," she whispered. "You'll see." At last, the front door clicked open. Emma's heart leapt. She hurried to the foyer, forcing her tired feet to move quickly. Daniel stepped in, tall and impeccably dressed in his tailored suit. But his eyes, cold, distant, didn't soften when they met hers. "Happy anniversary, love," Emma said with a nervous smile. "I made dinner, your favorite." Daniel loosened his tie, glancing at the dining table. The candles. The flowers. The food she had spent hours preparing. Instead of warmth, a heavy sigh escaped his lips. "Emma," his voice was flat. "We need to talk." Her stomach twisted. His words carried a weight that made the room suddenly colder. She tried to steady her voice. "Of course, but let's eat first. You must be exhausted." He shook his head. "No. This can't wait." He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a thick envelope. The sound of papers sliding across the polished table echoed louder than any storm. Emma blinked, confused, then horrified as she realized what they were. "Divorce papers?" Her voice broke. "Daniel, what is this?" The anniversary candles flickered between them, casting shadows on Emma's tear-filled eyes. The meal sat untouched, its warmth fading into the silence. Daniel straightened, his tone sharp, almost rehearsed. "I'm leaving, Emma. I've found someone else. And I want to start over with her. This marriage is over." The room spun. Emma clutched her belly, as though shielding the baby from his words. "After everything," she whispered, broken but dignified. "After all this time, you'd abandon your wife and your child for another woman?" Daniel said nothing. His silence was louder than any confession. And that was the moment Emma's world shattered into pieces. Before we continue with this incredible journey, I spent countless hours researching and crafting this story to bring you something truly meaningful. If stories like this touch your heart and you want to see more acts of kindness that restore faith in humanity, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. It means the world to me and helps these important stories reach others who need to hear them. Now, let's see what happens next. The divorce papers lay heavy in Emma's trembling hands. That night, the anniversary candles burned down to nothing, their smoke curling into the air like a funeral procession. She didn't eat a single bite of the meal she had so lovingly prepared. By dawn, she was gone. Emma packed her essentials, just 2 suitcases, a folder of medical records, and the tiny set of baby clothes she had bought months ago. The mansion, once her home, now felt like a stranger's house. Every picture frame on the walls seemed to mock her, reminding her that she no longer belonged. Daniel didn't stop her. He didn't even come downstairs. For the first time in years, Emma found herself standing on the sidewalk with nowhere to go. Her heels clicked against the pavement as she tried to balance her luggage and her belly. Cars passed by, but no one offered a second glance. She called friends she thought she could count on, but their responses were cold, clipped, or worse, curious whispers dripping with pity. One voice on the other end of the line said, "Oh, Emma. I'm so sorry. But, you know, Daniel has already told everyone. People say he's moving on. Maybe it's best you, well, take care of yourself quietly." The line went dead. Emma realized she was already being erased from the world she once belonged to. By the end of the week, the tabloids had their headlines. Millionaire Daniel Martinez seen with stunning young girlfriend. Business mogul leaves pregnant wife, romance with Vanessa Sparks. Emma's name wasn't even mentioned. To society, she was already a ghost. It was on a rainy afternoon, as Emma stood in line at a crowded clinic, that fate intervened. Her umbrella had broken. Her clothes clung damply to her skin. She held her swollen belly protectively as the thunder rolled outside. People around her shifted uncomfortably, some glancing at her, others turning away. Then a voice broke through the noise. "Emma? Emma, is that you?" She turned, startled. There, standing just a few feet away, was Marcus Reed, a childhood friend she hadn't seen in years. Emma blinked, surprised. "Marcus, it's been so long." He looked at her with concern, his brows furrowing as he took in her tired face, her damp clothes, the weight of her pregnancy. "Emma," he said softly, "what happened to you? You look exhausted." She tried to brush it off, unwilling to let pity define her. "I'm fine. Just waiting for my checkup." But Marcus could see the truth in her weary eyes. Without asking, Marcus insisted on staying with her through the appointment. She protested, but he only smiled. "I'm not leaving you here alone," he said simply. And so, he waited outside the doctor's office. Hours later, when Emma returned clutching ultrasound photos of her baby girl, Marcus saw something he hadn't seen in years, a faint but genuine smile breaking through her pain. "You're going to be an amazing mom," he told her gently. "I can already see it." Emma blinked back tears. For the first time since her world had fallen apart, someone had spoken to her not with pity, but with belief. When the rain poured harder, Marcus walked Emma outside, shielding her with his own jacket. She protested again, but he shook his head. "Don't argue with me, Em. You'll catch cold." He helped her carry her bags to the bus stop, where she explained she was renting a small, run-down studio apartment across town. The place was far from what she was used to, barely furnished, with peeling paint and a leaky faucet. But Emma spoke of it with quiet dignity. "It's small," she admitted, "but it's enough for me and the baby." Marcus looked around at the cracked walls, then back at Emma. He saw strength in her eyes, the kind that refused to break, even when life tried to crush her. "Emma," he said softly, "you deserve so much more than this. Let me help." But Emma shook her head. "No. I won't be anyone's burden. I'll manage. I always have." And in that moment, Marcus realized something. Emma was not weak. She was not broken. She was fighting, with every breath, for her dignity, for her baby, for her future. And that was the moment respect bloomed in his heart all over again. That night, after helping her set up the small apartment, Marcus left quietly, promising to check in the next day. Emma sat on the edge of her bed, exhausted but strangely lighter. For the first time since Daniel's betrayal, she didn't feel entirely alone. And though she couldn't see it yet, this small encounter would change everything. Life in the tiny studio apartment wasn't easy. The paint peeled from the walls, the heater rattled through the nights, and the rent devoured nearly all of Emma's savings. Yet every morning, she rose with quiet determination. She ironed her modest clothes, tied back her hair, and found odd jobs that kept her going, answering phones at a small travel agency, folding clothes at a dry cleaner, even babysitting for neighbors. She never complained. She never once said, "I used to live in a mansion." Instead, she whispered to her baby, "We'll make it, sweetheart. Somehow, we'll make it." Marcus kept his word. He checked in regularly, sometimes bringing groceries, sometimes helping fix the leaky faucet, sometimes just sitting with her over tea while she rested her swollen feet. At first, Emma resisted. She didn't want charity. She didn't want anyone to see her as weak. But Marcus never made her feel like a burden. He never pitied her. He simply showed up, steady, reliable, and kind. And slowly, Emma began to let her guard down. One evening, Marcus found Emma carefully sewing a tiny dress out of leftover fabric. He raised an eyebrow. "You're really making clothes for the baby by hand?" Emma smiled softly. "It saves money. And besides, every stitch has love in it." Marcus chuckled. "You always were stubborn. Do you remember in school, when you refused to quit the debate club, even after everyone else dropped out?" Emma laughed for the first time in weeks. "And you helped me write my final speech." "I never forgot that." The room filled with a warmth that no heater could provide. But not everyone shared that warmth. When Daniel's family learned Emma was living alone, they turned their backs completely. They called her pride foolishness, saying she should have accepted a settlement and disappeared quietly. Worse still, Daniel and Vanessa were everywhere, smiling in glossy magazine spreads, attending galas, posing with champagne glasses in hand. Daniel's empire seemed untouchable, his new love story perfect. And Emma? She was whispered about in markets and clinics. That's the one he left, while pregnant. The shame weighed heavily on her shoulders. But every time the world seemed too cruel, Marcus was there. One night, after Emma came home crying from overhearing two strangers gossiping about her, Marcus found her sitting silently at the kitchen table. He pulled up a chair beside her. "Emma," he said gently, "you don't need their approval. You never did. You're stronger than anyone gives you credit for." She looked at him with tear-filled eyes. "I don't feel strong, Marcus. I feel abandoned. Replaced. Like I was nothing more than a chapter he decided to tear out of his book." Marcus shook his head. "No. You're not a chapter, Emma. You're the whole story." He was just too blind to see it. Her lips trembled, and for the first time, she let herself cry in front of him. Marcus didn't speak. He simply stayed by her side, his presence steady as a lighthouse in the storm. But just as Emma began to regain her footing, a new challenge arose. Daniel's lawyers contacted her. They claimed she had no right to remain in the small apartment because, technically, it was under one of Daniel's subsidiary companies. He had quietly arranged it when she left, thinking it would push her into accepting his terms. If she didn't sign the divorce settlement, giving up all claims to his wealth and estate, she would be forced to move out immediately. Emma's heart sank. She had so little already. To lose even this tiny, fragile home felt unbearable. When Marcus heard, he was furious. "He's already taken everything from you. Now he wants to strip you of the little stability you have left?" Emma swallowed hard. "Maybe I should just sign it. At least then the baby and I won't be on the streets." Marcus slammed his hand on the table, startling her. "No, Emma. Don't you dare let him win like that. You fought too hard. You deserve more than scraps. Her voice cracked. And what if fighting means my child has no roof over her head? What kind of mother would that make me? Marcus softened, his anger dissolving into compassion. The kind of mother who never stops fighting. And you won't be alone in this. I promise. Emma stared at him, torn between fear and fragile hope. For the first time, she wasn't just battling for survival, she was standing at a crossroads. Would she give in to the pressure and disappear quietly, as Daniel and society wanted? Or would she risk everything to claim her dignity, her baby's future, and the life she deserved? And though she didn't know it yet, this choice would set the stage for everything that came next. For weeks, Daniel paraded Vanessa through high society circles. She sparkled in diamond necklaces, laughed into champagne glasses, and draped herself over his arm like a trophy he had finally earned. But behind closed doors, their perfect romance was far from golden. Vanessa was restless, demanding, and insatiable. Every time Daniel bought her something expensive, she wanted more. A new car. A penthouse suite. Exotic vacations. And when he hesitated, she whispered poison into his ear. Darling, she purred, if you want me by your side forever, you need to think bigger. Invest. Expand. Show the world you're unstoppable. Daniel, blinded by lust and pride, listened. Vanessa encouraged him to pour millions into risky projects, ventures tied to a rival company she secretly worked with. Slowly, his fortune began to drain. Board members raised concerns. Stocks dipped. Journalists started questioning his judgment. But Daniel dismissed them all, clinging to Vanessa's smile as if it were worth more than his empire. Behind the scenes, Vanessa met with Daniel's competitor, feeding them his secrets, watching gleefully as cracks spread through his empire. Meanwhile, Emma's life looked nothing like luxury. Yet, in her modest apartment, something remarkable was happening. She was growing stronger. With Marcus's help, she found part-time work she could manage while pregnant, answering calls for a local charity. The pay was small, but the work filled her with purpose. Every day, she walked to the office, head held high, ignoring the whispers around her. And when she returned home, she placed her hands over her belly and whispered to her daughter. We may not have riches, my love. But we'll have something far greater, peace. Safety. Love. Her strength didn't come from wealth. It came from survival. One evening, as Emma sat sewing another tiny baby outfit, Marcus brought her dinner. You work too hard, he said, placing the food on the table. Emma smiled faintly. I have to. For her. Marcus watched her quietly, admiration written across his face. Emma, you have no idea how inspiring you are. Most people would have given up by now. But not you. She lowered her eyes, humbled. I don't feel inspiring. I feel scared most days. He shook his head gently. Strength isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to keep going, even when you're afraid. And that's what you do every single day. Her heart softened. For the first time, she wondered if perhaps, just perhaps, life was offering her a second chance at happiness. As Emma built her life brick by brick, Daniel's empire crumbled stone by stone. Investors pulled out. Competitors surged ahead. The mansion that once hosted glittering galas became quiet, its halls echoing with emptiness. One night, Daniel came home to find Vanessa packing her designer bags. Where are you going? He demanded. She smirked, slipping a diamond ring off her finger. With someone who actually knows how to protect what he has. And just like that, she was gone, taking with her not just his fortune, but his pride. Daniel, once untouchable, was left standing in ruins. And at the very same time, across town, Emma felt the first sharp pain ripple through her body. She gasped, clutching her belly as her water broke. Panic surged. She was alone in the apartment, the night pressing in around her. Her phone slipped from her trembling hand as she tried to dial. Tears blurred her vision. Not now, she whispered through gritted teeth. Please, not alone. Just then, the door burst open. Marcus, who had been checking on her daily, had come by with soup and groceries. He froze when he saw her doubled over, breathing hard. Emma, he shouted, rushing to her side. It's time. We have to get you to the hospital. She clung to him, terrified. Marcus, I don't think I can do this. He steadied her, his voice firm but gentle. Yes, you can. You're the strongest person I know. And I'm not leaving your side. Not now, not ever. With Marcus supporting her, Emma made it to the hospital as the contractions grew stronger. Nurses rushed to her aid, guiding her onto a bed as monitors beeped and voices filled the room. Emma squeezed Marcus's hand, her face pale with fear but fierce with determination. And somewhere across the city, Daniel sat alone in his darkened mansion, his empire gone, his mistress vanished, and the only woman who had ever truly loved him preparing to bring their child into the world, without him. The hospital room buzzed with urgency, nurses rushing, monitors beeping, Emma gripping the rails of the bed as wave after wave of pain surged through her body. Her face glistened with sweat, her cries echoing through the sterile hallways. But through it all, Marcus never left her side. He held her hand firmly, whispering encouragement, his voice steady even as tears filled his eyes. You've got this, Emma. You're almost there. One more push. And with a final cry, the room filled with the piercing sound of new life, a baby's first cry. Emma collapsed back against the pillows, tears streaming down her cheeks as the nurse placed her newborn daughter gently in her arms. Hello, my love, she whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. Welcome to the world. Hours later, when the chaos had settled and Emma finally cradled her sleeping child in peace, the hospital door creaked open. Daniel stepped inside. He looked nothing like the powerful man she once knew. His suit was wrinkled, his hair unkempt, his eyes hollow from sleepless nights. Everything about him screamed defeat. Emma, he rasped, his voice trembling. Please. I need to see you. Marcus stiffened, ready to intervene, but Emma raised a hand. Calm. Composed. Stronger than she had ever been. Daniel moved closer, his eyes falling on the baby. His lips trembled. She's beautiful, he whispered. Our daughter. Emma, I've made a terrible mistake. Vanessa used me. She drained me. And when I had nothing left, she abandoned me. He sank to his knees beside the bed, tears streaming down his face. Please, Emma, forgive me. Take me back. Let's start over, for the baby's sake. The room fell silent. Emma stared at him, the weight of years of love, betrayal, and heartbreak flooding her mind. But then she looked down at her daughter, tiny, perfect, innocent. And she realized something. She didn't need Daniel. She never had. Her voice was steady, firm, filled with the strength she had fought so hard to reclaim. I may have lost you, Daniel, she said, meeting his broken gaze. But in the process, I found myself. And that's something you'll never take from me again. Daniel's shoulders shook as he wept openly. But Emma didn't waver. She handed her daughter gently to Marcus, then swung her legs over the bed, standing tall despite her exhaustion. With her child in her arms and Marcus by her side, she turned away from Daniel. She didn't need his wealth. She didn't need his name. She had something far more powerful, her freedom, her dignity, and a future she would build on her own terms. Months later, Emma and her daughter thrived in a cozy new home Marcus helped her find. She continued her work at the charity, her gentle nature touching countless lives. Marcus remained a constant presence, steady, kind, never demanding more than she could give. And slowly, Emma realized that love could bloom again, not the fragile love she once clung to, but something deeper, built on respect and trust. As for Daniel, his empire was gone. His mansion sold. His name, once synonymous with success, now whispered with pity. He disappeared from the spotlight, a broken man left to wrestle with the weight of his own choices. And Vanessa? She was already on the arm of another wealthy rival, her laughter echoing through yet another glittering ballroom. One sunny afternoon, Emma pushed her daughter's stroller through the park. She stopped when she saw a young woman struggling with groceries, bags spilling onto the sidewalk. Without hesitation, Emma bent down to help. It was a simple act of kindness, but one that reminded her of the journey she had taken. Once, she had been the one broken, in need of help. And now, she was the one offering it. Her heart swelled as she realized this was what true strength looked like. Emma's story reminds us that betrayal does not define us. What defines us is the choice to rise again, to rebuild, and to discover the strength we never knew we had. It shows that sometimes, losing everything we thought we needed is the very thing that gives us freedom. And it reminds us that kindness, loyalty, and resilience can create a ripple effect, changing not just one life, but many. Stories like this remind us that extraordinary kindness exists all around us. If this touched your heart, please like this video. It helps more people discover these inspiring stories. Subscribe for more tales of human resilience and kindness that will restore your faith in humanity. And most importantly, look for opportunities in your own life to be someone's unexpected blessing. So let me ask you, what act of kindness will you perform this week? Share it in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and remember, you have the power to change someone's entire world. Subscribe, like and comment. Don't forget to tell us where you are watching from.